Black cisgender heterosexual identified men are killing Black trans women. Black ones.
We are not talking about it in the church.
Those street guys are already engineers. If they're mixing drugs and stuff together, they're chemical engineers.
If you're just like, yeah, let's kill 50 cops just because, you know, that's only a fraction of the Black people that they killed. Wait, now you're talking about my wife.
For those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there.
When I think of financial literacy, I just don't think of the classroom work. I think some of it is practical application.
I'm scared, especially, you know, calling them to arms, talking about poll workers or poll watchers. That is rooted in history of voter suppression and intimidation.
Joe Biden needs to make that a part of his educational platform.
Call that shit out.
I don't see much value in you speaking in tongues, and yet when you speak in English, you don't say nothing for my people.
Many of the reasons why we're dying is because of the conditions we live under that cause our health to be so bad, and that cause it's the food, it's the water, it's clean that shit up first.
When their fathers had prostate cancer, I had like a 150% chance of getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer. I had a friend that did a raw vegan diet, 20 years remission, had thyroid cancer, never had surgery. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
This week in Black People Shit, Hollywood Shuffle. Is Hollywood reevaluating their hiring practices due to the current political climate? I'm your host, Chrystee Pharris. Hollywood Shuffle was a satirical comedic film that was produced and directed and co-written by Robert Townsend. The film follows the life of an inspiring Black actor named Bobby Taylor as he attempts to make it in the film industry and all of the anxiety and obstacles he has to deal with along the way. The movie Hollywood Shuffle was released in 1987, but the same struggles that fictional actor Bobby Taylor was dealing with in the movie, many real life actors are still having to deal with that 33 years later. That would be me. Today, I'm here with CBS casting director Jason Kennedy and actress Janora McDuffie to discuss how Hollywood is grappling with this new paradigm shift now that America has gotten its black wake-up call. Let me bring them in. So we have Janora.
Hey, everybody.
We have Jason.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Jason, first of all, for being here, for being a part of this, for sharing your experience. I want to jump right in and ask you, just so that everybody knows, Jason started promoting on his Instagram around, I would say, the 8th or the 9th of June to promote Black actors. And which was a hashtag promote Black actors. And what you would do is just, you would take your picture, post it on Instagram. And if he gets the opportunity to see it, he will post it and repost it on his page so that other casting directors and people in the industry can take a look and see who all these talented Black actors are who probably have never been seen before by casting directors. So with that being said,
and you're also seeing a mix of my cats and dogs in there too. But
and a little alcohol in there too.
Yeah.
So what made you become an advocate for Black actors even more now?
I felt a need to do something. I think, we can talk about this, and I have a lot of learning to do it, as I've said. But I felt an urge to do something that was productive, that was active, that was that could actually make a difference. And my colleagues are all feeling, I mean, we've been talking about this, and we've been, we got to do something. We're coming up with ideas, and I just wanted to get rolling on something immediately. And this was just something I knew that I could do. I had, all of these wonderful actors that I know, that I love. And I just wanted to share them with my colleagues in the world. And then I know there's so many out there that I don't know, and I want to know them. I want to discover them, and I want to be able to highlight these people because there's so much talent out there that we need to be aware of. And this just seemed like the best way to do it. And I'm just been, I think it's been 3 weeks now, and I've been really enjoying it. It's really, one of the coolest things about it is just going back and remembering, you know, how I met these people and what I thought about them then and where they are now. Sometimes I'll even learn something. I'll do a little Googling and I'll learn something about them that I didn't know as I'm kind of writing this little write-up on them. And so it's been a great experience for me too. And I hope that, and what I also really love is there's so many actors, so many talent reps and other casting directors that are also promoting talents that they know. And I'm seeing all these headshots, I'm seeing these reels and these readings, and I love watching it and discovering these people. It's been really great.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you. Thank your colleagues who have also jumped on board. And it's one of the silver linings to the pandemic is you have the time, right? Like now we're all kind of figuring out what's going to happen next. I guess my question then to you is what happens when shows get picked up again, we're back in action, and then this extra time that you have goes away? Is there a plan in place to still look for brown folks that are ready to be found?
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that I'll have the time to do all these write-ups. I kind of said in my first post that I'm definitely going to keep this going until I start back at work, because who knows what's going to happen when I start back at work. If I start back at work. But I do plan to keep something like this going. At the same time, I'm making lists. You know, all these people that I'm discovering or rediscovering, I'm making lists of these people so that I do remember them. And when I'm reading a script or I'm writing up a breakdown, that I will have a list of these people in front of me to hopefully remember to use them, to bring them in.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think I remember when I saw the post, it really touched me, and it actually made me kind of shed a tear a little bit, because it was, you know, I've been doing this for so long, and if I hear one more person say to me, "Oh my God, you're a star. Oh my God, it's just a matter of time. You're going to make it. Oh, there's something about you that's so dynamic." I got to a place where I was like, okay, people have been saying that for like 15 years now, and yet it hasn't happened. What is the issue? So when I saw that, with all the trauma that's been happening, because there's so much craziness that's been boiling up inside me since, you know, all of these murders are starting to come to light, even things that happened from a year ago. When I saw that, it made me go, oh, wow. Okay. I think what it did was that it opened me up to feel. And when you started posting them, I'm on there, I'm liking them. I'm like, oh, who is this person? And I'm Googling them, you know, and I'm not a casting director. So do you think the change will continue? And if so, what do you think the changes can be?
I think naturally we, just as human beings, we become fans of other actors. We love discovering people. I think, you know, the real change is going to be, you know, really changing our way of thinking, our way of for lack of a better word, just having our mindset on this idea that these roles have to be this way. This is something like I said, I've been learning a lot, and this is something I've been struggling with for probably the past decade. When I read a script, I have to challenge myself every time I come across a role, because instinctively I visualize what that role is. You know, a firefighter, okay, that's going to be a guy who's really physically fit and he's probably white. So that for some reason is in my head, because that's what I learned. And so as a casting director, I have to change that way of thinking. I constantly have to envision other ways to do that. And that's what we all have to do. We know that there are, you know, a huge diverse world out there that is not represented on television and film. You know, people with disabilities, people of color, gay and lesbian, you know, and we have a duty to make that more representative of the world we live in. And so that's what I'm hoping and feeling like is going to be happening a lot more. I think, you know, the good that's coming out of this revolution is that people are wanting to make change. And that's one of the biggest challenges of this whole diversity and inclusion, you know, fight, I guess you could say, is that, you know, yes, people are like, oh yes, this is important, this is great, but that drive was not really there. It wasn't important. It wasn't necessary, and I feel like a lot more people feel that it is now. I feel it's really touched a lot of people's hearts. I think people are more understanding. I think people are learning and educating themselves. At least I know I am, and a lot of my colleagues are. And we're determined to make a difference. You know, it has to be done.
Jason, I love the use of the word revolution and what you just explained. I love that. I think there's so much power in that. So what my question to you now then is, I know your job as a casting director fits into this crazy matrix of other jobs within the Hollywood industry, within creating a story or bringing a story to life. Yeah. How much power do you have as a casting director, or does casting director in general have to say, you know what, I think you should reconsider this particular role as an African-American woman, or as just something outside the norm? Do you have that power when it comes to when a script is produced and brought to life?
Yeah, I mean, I would call it influence rather than power. You know, I'm very fortunate in the job, in the two shows that I work on. We're a very collaborative bunch. The producers, the writers, directors, we all listen to each other, we talk with each other, we work with each other, and we want to make the best show possible. And they're very receptive to ideas. You know, sometimes they get through and sometimes they don't. But when it comes to, you know, changing up a role, we have ideas. Almost every episode we have an idea of a role or two that needs to be, or not needs to be, that could be changed. And for example, that firefighter role we had last season, and we had a character who was, you know, this gruff, you know, male, you know, fire chief. And, you know, that's the stereotypical, you know, kind of way to go with that character. And we made the suggestion, why don't we make it female? We can keep the same age, you know, but this, you know, we know there are female fire chiefs out there, and we haven't had one on the show yet. Why not? Let's give it a shot. And, you know, it was a little harder to find, but we did. We found a great actress, and it worked really well. And so it's not impossible. It's like I said, it's necessary for us to think outside of what we think is the norm, because what is the norm is really not reality. So let me ask you a truthful, honest question for you, based off of an experience that I had years ago for a show that was on CBS. I had an audition, and my question is going to be, does it help or does it not help? Does it serve? Does it not serve? So I had an audition for a show. At that time, I was auditioning 3 or 4 times a week, especially for CBS, because I knew I was on their top roster and all that good stuff, which was great. I was like, you know, they love me, and, you know, CW, and before it was a CW, you know, that whole thing. And I remember going into this audition, and first I had an audition, great, didn't think about it, great audition, didn't get a call back, no big deal. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a call back. But they called me the same day, 3 hours before the audition. Oh, wow. And I was like, well, you know, I haven't seen this in 3. Don't worry about it. It's pilot season. They know it. The casting directors are fine. Just go. And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking, they must really like me. I have a chance. And I get dressed, I go down there, and I get in there, and then I'm asking everybody like, hey, so how long did you guys have this audition? Oh, a week ago, or last night, or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So then the next, so they had
people going in. They were in there for about 20 minutes or so because it was a director's session, work session. I get in there and I'm not even in there for 2 minutes. I mean, it was like no chance. And mind you, the first scene I did, nailed it. I see the casting director smiling. I see the producers smiling, and they're like, great job. And this director did not want me in the room. And the reason why I know is because the casting director, Bruce, told me later. He's like, yeah, we had to fight to get you in the room. And then the head of diversity, Fern, told me the same thing. We had to fight to get you in that room.
Mm-hmm.
So my question, besides the fact that I cussed my agent out when I left because I felt so humiliated. I was like, God, he could have at least had a conversation with me or something, but he just did not want to see me. And it crushed me. And then the following week, I had the same situation that went down where I was the lead of the role, and they had the character had a whole family, which we knew was like our thing in the Black community. We would say, oh, we know that they're not going to go Black because they're not going to cast a whole Black family. So I'm auditioning for the lead. So I call my agent with an attitude saying, you need to ask them, are they really going to go Black? And then she called me 2 minutes after I spent like $250 on coaching with Stan Kirsch, rest in peace. They were like, yeah, they're not going to go Black off the record, is what they told me. So, and again, it crushed me so bad that I still to this day have a fear of going into auditions. And it traumatized me. I stopped working. I stopped going. I just completely left my agent. It was like, I'm not going to audition for a while unless people are calling me directly.
Yeah.
With that being said, first, I would like to know, do people even know what we're going through and how that feels? And I'm sure all actors go through this. It's not just a black and white thing. Sure. But I'm taking it personal because I knew it had to do with color. But does it serve us to go in or not serve us? Is there a token situation? Because we always used to talk about the token, because I was the only Black girl that went in on both of those. Was there a token situation where, oh, we just need to fill a quota? I mean, I'm asking you like so many different questions.
Sure.
But it traumatized me so much that I'm like, I kind of would love to have some type of answer. You know what I mean? Like, make me feel better in some way, shape, or form. You know, is it true? Or did I just make this up in my head, all these things that happen?
I mean, I can't speak specifically to this. I can guess as to what happened. Going to what you said just a moment ago, we don't know what you as actors go through. We can guess, we can imagine the heartache, and we try to anticipate that. We try to anticipate, when we send out an appointment, we try to give, enough notice, because we know how stressful it is to prepare last minute for something, and wardrobe and hair and makeup and driving someplace and finding parking, and we know what a nightmare that is. So we try to be as generous as we can with as much time as we can, but that's not always possible. I wouldn't say I've had that situation, but I've definitely had situations where we have, brought people in that the producers were not hot on, because we felt like they were missing out. That they needed to see these people because what they're looking for is could be better, and so that's our job as a casting director. And CBS has been really trying to lead the charge in making change as far as diversity is concerned, and making sure that diverse talent is seen. And they've been really good about that. Whenever we're casting a pilot or a series regular role, letting us know, of some talent that we're not aware of, that's not on our list, and making sure we're seeing people. I can understand there are producers out there that have an idea in mind with what these roles are going to be, and they're very reluctant to change, and especially someone, or a director, and certainly someone who's been in the business for a very long time. And there's only so much guidance we can give them as casting directors, but we still have to do our job. There's so many talented people out there that need to be seen, and it's certainly our job to make sure if someone's being missed, that they're put in front of these people, for sure.
Right. And let me just say, I just want to add, CBS was great. The casting director was phenomenal. The head of, diversity casting was phenomenal. So I have to give, CBS credit for bringing me in. You know what I mean? It's just this one particular person was not having it. I mean, and when they told me, it just crushed me. And so I don't want to put CBS in some category, but I want to make sure people know, like these are the things that we go through, to a certain degree. Go ahead.
Chrystee, I'm sorry that happened to you. You are going to come out stronger.
Of course.
And Jason, in terms of moving forward and in terms of bringing about the revolution, understanding that your component, again, is part of the system. So how do we make this systematic change when it comes to Hollywood? I know Chrystee talked about the network and you talked about producers and all these different components. So as a system, how do we move it forward?
Well, it begins with who we hire. I mean, really, it's, we need so many more people of color behind the scenes. And I'm happy to see that has been changing, and even more so in the last month or so. We've seen a lot of wonderful writers and producers, development deals being made. But we need, from our PAs on up, we need hiring to really be looked at seriously. And even in casting, we are really trying to recruit people of color in casting, because there's not enough, and we can make a positive change by doing that. Even I'm on the board of the CSA, and I'm not part of this initiative, but we have a training and diversity inclusion. Sorry, a training. We have a training committee that has a whole program that is designed to kind of recruit casting assistants, and they've really focused on diverse applicants, people coming in and wanting to learn the business, and we've come out of it with a lot of diverse casting assistants. So it's been really positive, and I feel like that's one of the steps that we can take is educating these people, diverse people, into these fields and inviting them in. There's so much more we can do, but yes, it all begins with hiring, for sure, and that's where we have to make change.
Yeah. So let me ask you on a whole different note that we all would love to know. Black women's hair when we come into audition.
Yes.
Do we? I mean, we obviously know we should look like our picture, but Black women, we change our hair so often. Like some days we're like, oh, I just got an audition and I have braids. Does that make a difference in the casting process when we walk through the door?
I mean, I'll be honest. It took me, it was probably about 12, 15 years ago, maybe, that when I was like, oh, yeah, Black women's hair changes so frequently, as it can be I had to learn about this. I really did. And I think most people should be completely fine. We know people's hair change. We know that we can change hair pretty easily. And we sometimes talk about it. If the role needs to be a certain way, then, it's certainly part of the discussion. I think there are people out there that may be distracted by, say, big hair, or very, or something that's going to be out of their expectations, outside of their expectations, and maybe they don't focus on the performance, which I hope is not the case. But you should be able to look beyond what someone's wearing or how their hair is. But not everybody is able to do that, and so if there's any way to be mindful of something like that, you can't control what people are thinking, and you gotta do what you gotta do. And if that's how your hair is, then that's how your hair is today. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, Tangerine said, great question. I'm actually changing my hair right now for a self-tape. So yeah, we're always constantly, and it's always a big question that we have.
Yeah. Especially when you go back from curly to straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's not easy to change hair, you know, certainly going curly to straight and back again. And yeah, I can't imagine.
Right. So in
I'm lucky
addition
I
to
don't have
that,
any.
well, we like what you're rocking, Jason.
Yeah, exactly.
But after, as Black women, and even I'm sure Black men, especially Black women though, after we do book the role, having people on set capable of doing our hair and doing our makeup, I think that's also part of this multi-faceted structure of us in this business.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was on Passions, which, you know, that was the best situation ever. I mean, it's on my wall right here. But I'll never forget what was told to me was that the young lady who played the role right before me, that they got in a lot of arguments about hair, about her hair and all that kind of stuff. So immediately when I got on, we had a situation where I was like, oh my God, my hair looks an absolute mess. And I started crying and I went to my dressing room, and let me tell you, they came to my room immediately to nip that mess in the bud. They were like, we are not going to be dealing with this hair situation with you. Oh. And I was like, I thought they were going to be on my side. So, but they were not. And then eventually at some point in time, all of the Black cast members decided to go to the producers to ask them about finding somebody who could do Black hair. But they asked me to go with them. And I said, absolutely not. I haven't been on the show that long. So I am not going to get caught up in that because I'm not trying to get fired. But I think it is important for them to have it. And that was just one of my experiences that I had that had to do with you know, the whole Black hair situation.
And I've heard, you know, I've heard things, I don't even remember where I heard things, but I've heard of actors, you know, having issues with the hairstylists on shows. And you know, at first you might hear something like, oh, this actor was difficult about this. And I'm like, but wait a second. No, Black hair is very different and if you're a white hairstylist, you're not going to be that familiar with it. I think it really should be something that either the hairstylists are educated in how to deal with Black hair and how to style it, or they find someone who is. So that is definitely, that's a whole nother department that really could make a change.
I agree with you there. Let's see. Prior to casting, is it a common question for casting directors or directors to ask the actor or actress whether or not a certain color or style will be attained for the show/movie? Do you have an answer for that, Jason?
So is it common for us to ask the actor? Depends. I mean, I work on shows that have a lot of military roles, so we often will remind actors, you know, this requires a military haircut. So yeah, there's that. Sometimes we might have to match a character. There's a story, you know, element where a character's hair has got to be a certain way, a certain color, a certain length, a certain curly, straight, whatever. So yeah, that if it's necessary, yes, we will sometimes have that conversation in the room. Sometimes when we get to the very end and we're about to hire somebody, we'll ask the agent after discussing with producers, hey, our producers would like to put a rinse in your hair and darken it. Right. Is that something you're willing to do? We'll pay for it, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's part of, you know, part of this world that we're creating. So sure.
Let's see. Tim said, given the current political climate, do you think studio executives will swing the pendulum in the other direction and greenlight more shows written by Black writers, hire more Black actors and crew in an effort to protect their jobs? I
hope so. I mean, they better.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we're already seeing that change. I think we're seeing some movement in that direction. But yeah, it's a no-brainer for sure.
Yeah, and this might be similar to Tim's question. With these changes, do you think it's lasting change, or do you think it's just because that's the PC thing to do right now?
You know, I'm an optimistic person, but I think, you know, only time's going to tell. I really, this just feels so momentous that I'm leaning towards it's going to be some kind of lasting change. But again, we got to see what comes out of this.
So my question is about pay. Is there a big, huge difference between a white actor getting paid and a Black actor getting paid? Or is it really about having the right representation?
No, I don't think there's a difference between, on our shows at least, a Black actor and a white actor. Representation, I think, helps in the terms of you want somebody who's going to try and fight for you and get the best deal possible. But I will say this, the difference is that sometimes the money that an actor is being offered is based on their credits, on their experience. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Black actors who don't have as much experience as their counterparts or their white counterparts. So there's going to be a pay discrepancy there for sure, because they don't have those credits. They have not been given the opportunities, and so therefore they're not going to be at the same pay level. And we have to change that by providing more opportunities.
Did you have anything else, Janora?
I did. So, Jason, I'm going back to the revolution now. I'm not going to leave this special time with you without having a plan in place. And in terms of a plan, on all the levels, and I loved what you said about making sure people are hiring a diversity or something that looks like the world, something that's brown, but also what can we have in place that holds people and this system accountable to that? Like, how do we make sure it definitely happens? Like, all right, you said it. You said it back July 1. So where is it?
It's on all of us to keep hounding people about it. I mean, we all have a voice, and so we just need to keep using it. And whenever I'm involved in hiring, someone in my office, that would certainly be part of the conversation. If you see something, say something. I think it's really just a matter of us being on top of the powers that be, and recommending people that who are people of color, who are people with disabilities. And if you don't know these people, then going out and finding these people and helping put them in the limelight so that they have those opportunities. But it's really just going to be a matter of hounding the people with power, and making sure they don't forget, because you're not going to forget.
And how do we change those spaces of those in power? Like, how does that work on that executive hierarchy of Hollywood? I don't know. Add to those spaces, or just make sure that those spaces in power do have, or our allies, or our allies of diversity and good faith.
I think there's a movement when there's so many of us who are determined to make a change. I think it's inevitable that executives will want to join in that change. No one wants to be left alone, doing nothing if everyone is doing something. So my hope is that will be the thing that catapults their drive to make a difference.
Let's see. Chris says, Chrystee and I did a production of a show that was meant to be an all-Black cast. However, 90% of the actors in the show were white. What is your take on a role written for Black actors being portrayed by white actors? For example, the voiceover actors in Hollywood who recently quit their jobs. Well, we're definitely going to get to that one, Chris. And so just so that I can say before you answer that, if you have any comments on that, Chris and I, the great thing about the school, this is when we were in school that I went to, this was a high school production. We did Dreamgirls, but there were not a lot of Black actors at the school.
All right.
So that was part of the reason. But one thing that I have to say about the teacher that cast all of us, the theater teacher, was that I also did a show that was all white, and the character that was supposed to be Black was played by a white kid, and I played the lead that was white. So he was a person that was, like super open, and I'm very fortunate that majority of my career has been that way. You know what I mean? That people have been so supportive in that way. So if you have an answer for that, that'd be great.
Well, I mean, it baffles me that it still happens. I mean, I was reading some of these articles about the voiceover actors, finally stepping down, and I've had a problem with, Mike Henry does a good job, making this character funny on Family Guy. But from the beginning, when I saw Cleveland, I was like, that voice sounds really weird. It's funny, it's a funny sounding character. And I had to look it up to find out who the voice actor was. And when I found out he was white, I was like, what? Yeah. Okay, all right. So I always kind of had a problem with it. It always kind of bothered me. So I really applaud him for stepping down. I really felt like it always should have been a Black actor. I think if it's a Black character, it should be a Black actor. If it's any, I think it should be representative of who the character is to a certain extent. And so I'm glad to see that there's some change happening. Oh, there we go. And then Big Mouth. So it baffles me that it still happens. I know that there are when it comes to movies, sometimes there's the excuse that they need a bigger name actor, and that bigger name actor happens to be white, and and then you realize it's always about money, and it's not about the art, and it just kind of is deflating. Again, I am optimistic and hopeful that this will create some change when those decisions are being made. Right. People are going to second guess those instincts to hire somebody who is not representative of the role they're playing.
Right, and here's the thing for me is Janora and I are both voiceover actors, and I'm a part of a voice actor group on Facebook. And we had a discussion about it, and it's a catch-22 for me, because I feel like, yes, well, that's great that they're stepping down to a certain degree, but I also play white characters as well. And it took a long time for them to not just cast me as a Black character actor, you know what I mean? Or not character actor, but voiceover actor. So a part of me is like, yeah, great. We get these opportunities. Thank you, Kristen Bell, for stepping down and giving an opportunity for someone. But on the flip side of it, I also don't want to be pigeonholed to just only being a Black actor, voiceover actor, voice actor, because I do so many. You know what I mean? So I'm torn between the two worlds. I feel like if you're good, hey. But there's not that many opportunities all the time for Black actors, which is why I think it's so important that they did do that. Go ahead, Janora.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think the difference is in the number of opportunities. If you only got 5 Black characters on an animated show, but you have 50 white animated characters on that same network, then for another white person to take up that space, versus a Black person being able to play in that other space. I think it's opportunity and access. And I appreciate them stepping down, because I think that's an example that people need to see. All right, we're riled up, right? Folks want to know what they can do. It's more than reading a book or watching a documentary. I mean, people have to find their own lane, but if a lane isn't just, hey, that's wrong, but hey, that's wrong, and I'm going to publicly do something about it and step down, and it's directly affecting my pocketbook, they are my friend.
Because it's making that sacrifice.
Yep.
Right. Yep. It's making that sacrifice so that we can build generational wealth. Because that's the thing, like, we got to get to a place where we're able to create those generational wealths that everybody else gets to do, because sometimes it's so far and few between that we get these opportunities, that those little things right there that they did made me go, oh man, that's so wonderful that you did that. But again, I'm also torn between the two worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I hear you. And in addition to just generational wealth, also just representation. Like, man, Chrystee, she looks like me. I can do that when I grow up.
Yep.
And I think that's priceless.
I agree. Let's see if there's any questions that are out here before. Jason, do you have any knowledge of post-production and diversity in LA? I've heard so many horror stories from my Black post-production colleagues. I've yet to meet an African-American in post-production management.
I mean, I've been working on these shows for so long. I really don't know much about post-production in general or outside of my shows. And yeah, I don't think it's just post-production. I think it's really across the board. There is not enough diversity in any department. You know, whether it's, you know, construction, hair, casting, PAs, you know, we need a lot of change.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. One of the reasons why everybody who's listening in, Jason Kennedy is a casting director on CBS for NCIS, NCIS LA, and a couple of other ones that he's not doing anymore, but a lot of them are based off of CBS. I've known Jason for a long time. He always brings me in. I always feel like he's a fan. And I wanted to start having discussions instead of them being separated from race, you know, white people are talking over here, Black people talking over here. I wanted to bring people on the show so that we all can start having a dialogue so that we can finally start to come up with some answers and make change. So this is the reason why we had Jason on the show. Were there any other questions? Should we pull up real quick? Jason, can you ask Breakdown Services to include with the C-mail the photo that was submitted by the agent? This way the actress can see our hair look essentials that was chosen for the role. That is a good one. That is
when you get a C-mail that is the appointment or an EcoCast request, it doesn't send, I assume it doesn't send anything about the submission. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So we don't get to see which hair, you know, that they chose, which picture they chose.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Dale, thank you for that. I have a list of suggestions for them, so I'll add that to the list.
Okay, let's see. Jonah said, how can actors who are union have training and representation, but not many TV film credits be more in your radar, especially if they are POC?
You know, there are so many actors, so you've got competition out there. But really just keeping active with work, creating your own work, keeping active on social media. I have found that tagging casting directors on social media is not invasive, but it can be really helpful in kind of letting people know, hey, I'm over here. I may not look at everything, but I do see that I'm tagged and stuff, and I will like something or check something out. And even if I just glance at somebody's photo for a moment, that's already in my head. So when I go through submissions, 3 months from now, that I'm going to be familiar with that person because I just saw their photo for a split second. So it's just really a matter of getting yourself out there any way that you can. And social media is a great way to do that. And like I said, creating your own work, doing things like what you're doing, Chrystee, with this show, doing skits, doing your own web series, it's stuff like that that's going to get you noticed.
And so we have a couple of people that ask questions on our social media. Janora, do you want to ask yours?
Yes. So this question is from Rwanda Ray. I hope I'm saying her first name correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. But Miss Ray, she wanted to know what casting is going to look like post-COVID. What is it all going to go to self-tapes? What does it look like on a set? How much do we know moving forward?
Yeah, things are still being figured out. I think we might be another month or two away from production starting up, but that can change. I mean, with cases on the rise and further restrictions happening, things could be delayed even further. As far as casting, I think it's pretty safe to assume that self-tapes will be the norm in a lot of offices. You know, you might see some live, you know, Zoom or Skype kind of sessions for certain projects, but because we already are familiar with self-tapes, where everyone's pretty comfortable with it, it's been around for a while, it's going to be a pretty solid way of proceeding and keeping everyone safe. There are guidelines out there with how productions are going to be able to operate. I know the DGA and SAG-AFTRA and Teamsters put together this document that's really comprehensive and very, it's a good read. But it has a lot of stuff that will definitely give you an idea of what it's going to look like, but you can expect a lot fewer people on set, you know, PPE testing, you know, and maybe even fewer hours and lots of other stuff in there. But casting, at least for the foreseeable future, I can't imagine it being in a room with people for at least a while.
Okay. All right. Well, these are all good stuff.
I will say this though, you know, because it sounds, I mean, I feel like I am disappointed, because it is one of my favorite things is to be in a room with an actor and you know, I like to read with actors. I like to perform, you know, with actors to an extent. I like to be someone that they bounce off of. But it is such a wonderful part of my job. And so I will miss that. If it goes to self-tapes for a while. But the thing that I'm kind of excited about is that it takes a little bit longer to bring people into the room. And I'm hopeful, I'm looking forward to using that time to consider more people and to, you know, in the past, I might be able to have time to pre-read, you know, 20, 24 people. Maybe I can pre-read 30, 35 people, and, you know, via self-tapes and have, you know, more opportunities out there for actors and discover some people that maybe I wouldn't have been able to discover otherwise.
So we do have a question where she's saying she's doing all of everything like creating content, tagging, but it doesn't get everybody's attention. What are the ways to be on the radar of a casting director?
Right now, as we're stuck at home, there's not very much. You know, it's because I would also recommend, you know, doing theater and just, you know, really getting yourself out there. But no, we're all kind of in this bubble, and it's limiting. So social media is a really good resource, and yes, it's not going to get people's attention, but you got to keep at it. It's not something that you just do once, and you know, it's something that you want to, you know, update stuff frequently. If you're putting something out there constantly, I mean, something new, not just, you know, hey, here's my headshot or here's my demo, but you know, if you're producing something, if you're creating some kind of piece and it's different every week or every month, then you have something to promote. You've got something to talk about, and eventually it will catch these people's attention. So sure, you just got to keep at it. It's about persistence, and it's one of the reasons I'm not an actor, because I could not stay there.
Janora, I don't know if you have something, but I do have a question for you, Jason. That just slipped my mind, because I wanted to make sure I said that to Janora first. It just slipped my mind. I had a great question for you about, I know what it was. So Atlanta is a little bit different. They're more open to seeing people who do not have representation, because they're submitting online their CMAILs through Actors Access. How important, because I think we have a lot of young actors that are watching, how important is representation in being able to get in if they are brand new? You know, do you see brand new people? Do you, you know, accept submissions that are not from, you know, agencies per se?
So yeah, I can't, unfortunately, because I don't have the time. When we put out a breakdown to agents and managers, I could easily get a couple thousand submissions for one role.
Right.
And if I open that up to people without representation, I'll get triple the submissions, and a lot of the submissions that I get will be wrong. They'll be you know, someone who is completely age inappropriate for this role, or just didn't read the breakdown or whatever, and they're just submitting. And so it ends up being, you know, it's just not something that we can do. Now, I can understand you're a show that films in Atlanta or another regional area, and there's a smaller talent pool, and you're casting these roles where you need to see anybody and everybody who's right. So yeah, they're not going to get thousands and thousands of submissions. So absolutely. Listen, I wish I could see everybody, but it's not possible. I know, and it's one of the things that kind of always bugs me. It kind of itches the back of my brain when I'm going through submissions, that I know as I'm trying to narrow it down to a select choice, grouping to bring in or to have go on tape. I know that there's hundreds of people out there that could do this role that I'm missing out on. And it bugs me every time, because I have to make a decision based on what I know, what's in front of me, what my gut instincts are. Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, sorry, I'm kind of going off here, but
no.
Representation is unfortunately, it's really important. It helps us because we know that these actors have been vetted, we know that they're ready, or we hope that they're ready because they have an agent who believes in them. But also, you want a representative that is going to look out for you, that's going to protect you, that's going to negotiate on your behalf, who's going to ask all of those important questions that need to be asked before you jump through all these hoops. So it should always be the goal of any actor to get that representation, which is one of the reasons why I'm as part of my whole little campaign is I'm trying to promote people that don't have representation, because they're talented and they're ready to get themselves out there, and they need to have agents, because then they'll be submitted, and then I can bring them in. Not that I wouldn't anyway, but.
Right. No, it makes sense. Because
not just me, but other people need to know who these people are.
Right. Did you have anything, Janora, before we?
Maybe my last question would be, I know you said you understand why you're not an actor, but what made you go into casting?
As a child, I was definitely I was a musical theater guy. And I knew I loved entertaining, I loved performing, but I definitely didn't have the guts to do it. I really didn't, but I still enjoyed it. I realized that there was something in me that I knew that I wanted to do something. I knew that I knew it was casting, but I didn't know what it was called. And I remember in middle school, we were having a talent show, and I was part of the chorus and all this stuff, but I didn't want to be part of the talent show. There was a friend of mine who was really talented that I wanted her to audition, and she wasn't even considering it. And I pushed her to do it, and she got into the talent show. And I was like, wow, this is so great. And I was so happy and proud of her, and it made me feel good. And that's what was rewarding to me. And so as I grew up and I kind of learned what casting was, it took me a while, but I started kind of going down that path, and I moved to South Florida, where I could not find a casting job to save my life as an assistant or anything. But I worked at a talent agency, and I learned a lot there. And it was a great way to kind of segue into this world as I moved out here.
And so and he is in Los Angeles,
yes,
because somebody just asked the question. So Los Angeles based. One thing for all of you Passion fans that are out there, because I know that some of you guys are Passion fans, Jason is the one that got Galen on the show, who played, Louise. He played Louise.
He was one of our clients, yeah.
Yes, one of your clients. And then did you say Deanna? Did you say Deanna Wright?
Deanna Wright, yeah. Deanna Wright,
who played Kay. Who played Kay. That was when I was on the show. She played my best friend. And then who was the last person?
Eva Tamargo.
Yes, Eva, who played Lindsay's mom, so Teresa's mom on the show. Yeah. So you have to thank this man right here.
Well, I definitely can't take credit for all of that, but I was there, and they it was exciting. It was exciting to see these actors from Florida booking a job that worked out in Los Angeles. At a time when self-tapes were really just kind of getting started. when we were literally putting stuff on VHS and editing that crap.
Yes.
I remember doing that. I remember, putting actors on tape, and it was thrilling to have talent from South Florida book a major network television show. So it's exciting. It can happen. It can happen.
Yeah,
so.
it really can. There were, I think, 2 more questions. One, okay, are there any casting differences in movie roles versus sitcom roles?
Gosh, there are a lot of differences between movies and television in general. Movies move a lot slower. You have a lot more time. You can see a lot more people. In television, things every week you're casting a new movie, basically. So it moves very, very quickly. You can see a lot less people, and it depends on the project. But movies. I think time is the biggest thing. Time for everybody is the biggest thing. I imagine, I'm just guessing, you guys tell me, but if you get an audition for a movie, do you have to go in tomorrow, or do you have a week to prepare?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sometimes, you do have a little bit of time as far as movies. I just think that preparing for the role, to answer from an actress perspective, and Janora might have something a little bit different, but Joseph, to me, I feel like preparing for the role is going to be the same. It's just that you have to do your research. Film is going to be a little bit different because there's nothing to base it off of. But with television, you really have to do your research on what the pace of the show is. So for instance, if you're doing Law and Order, Law and Order or NCIS, you know what I mean, versus doing a Scrubs show or Big Bang Theory, all 3 of those, or maybe all 4 of them, are all going to be completely different types of mediums. So there's a rhythm that's a little bit different in your delivery. So for instance, I remember when, oh my God, there was something that came out, I think Parenthood. It was when it first came out, and it was probably one of the first ones that they were talking really fast. And I didn't get that then. I was taking my time, and, and they were like, she was great, but she did not understand the rhythm of the show. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So that's something that I would give for you, Joseph. What were you going to say, Janora?
Oh, no, you answered that perfectly.
Oh,
that was exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
And, and sometimes when you don't have a television show to look back on, or episodes to look back on, when it comes to a pilot like Parenthood, you might be able to get an idea based on who is the writer and executive producer, because a lot of times they'll set the tone and pacing. And if they, if it was the same person who did Gilmore Girls, or the same person who did, The West Wing, then you have an idea that maybe this project is going to be a little similar, in that tone and pacing.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because it was not, it was actually Gilmore Girls. I think that was the one. I was like, which one was it? It was Gilmore Girls.
That's a fast one, yes.
That was a fast one. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. So we're going to close out pretty soon. I know I had Abdul Majid. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yes. No, I just wanted to have that last question asked that
yes.
came up on screen. And it's not because it's my sister.
Yes, it is.
It's a solid question. Shout out to my sister and my family back in North Carolina, tuning in, always supporting.
Yes. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Were you going to ask the question? No, go ahead. Your sister, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Thank you for letting me do the honor. What is the percentage of landing a job that's due to who you know rather than just how good you are as a talent?
In my experience, even when we bring in people who are friends or someone we know, or someone the producer knows, 99.9% of the time it's the talent that gets the role. Certainly, it happens. Yes. Maybe 99 to be more accurate. 1% of the time, a director might push someone who, in my opinion, may not be as right or as good as someone else, but can do it just as fine. Or, but no, we're making a show. We want the best talent, and everyone on our shows are on the same page. We definitely want to hire the best.
Okay, this one has come up twice. So, what are your thoughts on young actors in this new normal? Will over 18 be hired to play younger now?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty common thing anyway. If we're hiring, if the character is like 16 or 17 or even 15, I don't know if the pandemic is going to change that. It's kind of hard to have a 25-year-old play a teenager in a lot of circumstances. So I don't know. But it is pretty common right now for that age.
Okay. And then I think Joseph asked me this question on Instagram. Joseph, if you did not answer this, ask this and somebody else did, but someone wanted to know training in school versus going to just classes like, an acting class versus training at a university or anything. Which one?
Well, I don't know why it has to be just one or the other. I think if you're university trained, that's great, but you should not stop training. A lot of working actors are still training every day. And even if they're not taking classes, they're still working with a coach. So it's not a one and done, career. You're constantly learning, you're constantly exercising your craft, working on your craft. So I think it would benefit you to definitely keep it going one way or another. For sure.
Okay. Well, let me just bring on Abdul. Do you want to come on for a second just to say hi? Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Abdul.
I am so sorry, Abdul. We got talking.
You guys did a great job. I was so intrigued by everything that everybody was saying and all the comments. So I would have rather the three you guys kept going. I didn't need to be in this. You guys doing a great job.
I know. Well, we're about to end anyway. We're getting ready to end with our BPS of the week. But let me do this. I'll do the BPS of the week. But Jason, I want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for allowing us to express ourselves. And, the questions that I asked you were all the questions that people had sent me. They wanted to know about pay. They wanted to know about hair. They wanted to know just about the whole casting process. So that came from a lot of different people, and we're really appreciated that that you were open and honest and received it and all of that. So
my pleasure.
And
yes,
thank you for being an advocate.
Yes,
Ally and an affirmative force out there for this change. Thank you.
And for all of you actors that are out there, if you would like to somehow be in touch with him, just post on your social media, you can post on your social media, promote Black actors, tag him in it, and maybe you might be selected as one of the ones that he features. You can even say that you watched him on the show. Maybe he'll do a little extra more for it. You just never know.
You never know.
Yes. So before we get a chance to end, let me just bring on, we like to celebrate a person who is doing something for the Black community, that is promoting the Black community. So our BPS of the week is an entrepreneur who has us all rethinking what Black Friday really means. Kenza Williams is the CEO of the Black Upstart, and as she watched, okay, let me try that again. She is the CEO of the Black Upstart, and as she watched the uprise for social justice spread around the world, she wanted to find a way to participate in the movement, but have a significant impact. As a business owner, she knew the power of the dollar and decided to focus on directing money to Black-owned businesses who are significantly underfunded and were hit hardest during this pandemic. So on Friday, July 19th, also known as Juneteenth, she started the MyBlackReceipt.com with a goal of people around the world to spend at least $5 million from June 16th to Juneteenth to July 6th, the day before blackout. And as of today, she has raised a little over $1.8 million for Black-owned businesses. The website again is MyBlackReceipt.com. And her efforts to make sure Black businesses don't go extinct, we have made her our BPS person of the week. So thank you very much.
Yay!
Yay!
What a great idea.
I know. We're gonna have to make you BPS of the week. That's what we need to do. So again, we want to thank you for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, a wealth of information. I'm so glad. I know I reached out and I was like, hey, would you want to come on and do the show? He's like, absolutely. So is there anything that you would like to promote, to tell them, where they can reach you?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Listen, I am on social media. I've been using a lot more since the pandemic. People are welcome to follow me on Instagram or Twitter. It's Kennedy Casting is my handle. And I happen to be doing a panel for SAG-AFTRA tomorrow. If anyone wants to check it out,
yes.
We are going to be talking about self-taping and going over all the basics and some tips. What to do, what not to do. So that's going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. LA time. So
nice.
I think it's on their website somewhere, but yeah.
SAG Foundation. I think it's the SAG Foundation on.
Not the foundation this time. This time it's just SAG-AFTRA. It's Gabrielle Cateras has this this great educational program. They're doing something every week, and so that's happening.
Do you know if they're open to people who are non-union? Is it open to everyone?
I think you have to be a member. You have to be a member to sign up. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So all you guys join the union. We love the union people. you get your pension, you get health insurance, all of that wonderful stuff. So yes, go ahead.
And for those trying to join the union and haven't had a chance, that opportunity, keep going, keep moving forward. You got this. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Don't give up.
That's right.
Oh, somebody said, I'm attending. Can't wait. That's what she just said. And Peter said, I'll be okay, because I will keep going, and I am not gonna.
and my last shout out is to Nicole and Tracy, non-Black actors who are joining in the conversation as allies and people along the journey who have just made it brighter for me. So shout out to you both.
And Dale. And Nicole. Yeah, and Dale as well, who is my accountability partner. She's been my accountability partner on all of our acting things for the last 8 years. Every single Monday at 8:30 in the morning, we talk about what we're going to get accomplished in this business for the last 8 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, so Dale, I appreciate you coming out and supporting. So, okay, all right, you guys, we're going to let you guys go. Thank you again for coming out and joining the conversation. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, 4 p.m. right here. And thanks again. Make sure you guys share and all of that good stuff. So you guys take care.
Thank you.
Oh, yay, Tim. Thank you for helping me. All right.
Shout out to Tim Sanchez.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.